Welcome back to another GR8 podcast episode. I think we're in like the 60s of how many podcast episodes I've had. It's actually crazy that we're getting up to like number 100 and we still can't get over like 5 listeners an episode. But I saw our last episode. We actually had 4 listeners, and I know one of them was me and one of them was Lauren. So I don't know who the other 2 are, but I'm proud of you. Thank you guys so much for listening, watching, having fun with me. Talking about just random stuff. Like I did last week, I kind of just did a hodgepodge and compilation of the different things I wanted to talk about. And I kind of want to keep on going with that same sort of structure. I spent about 5 minutes on one specific topic and spent another 5 minutes on another specific topic. But those 2 topics have nothing to do with each other. So I'm really excited to be getting into that. So I guess we can just jump right into it. I don't want to waste any of your guys' time. I'm trying to keep these podcast episodes the length down to like 20 minutes, 15 minutes. But I think what we got here is a pretty cool episode here. So UConn wins the National College Men's World Championship. Really good. It was cool. I actually didn't even watch the game, but I love March Madness. I love the overview of March Madness, looking at it from a bird's eye view of just like tons of basketball happening throughout a month. It's really funny. I guess this is a side piece. It doesn't happen all in March. Like, I feel like they should just start March Madness in the first week of March and then go throughout the entire month. Why go into April at all? Like, why are these national college basketball championships happening in the month of April when your whole thing is March Madness? But nonetheless, UConn definitely is the winner, and they win pretty convincingly. I think through the entire tournament, they won every game by like 12 to 15 points or something like that. So they're obviously just playing the heck out of this basketball sport and playing everybody at an unreal level. I think this is one of the better men's college basketball rosters of all time. Maybe not a roster, because there's been like actual NBA players like on like Kentucky and Duke and things of that nature. But now we have like a legitimate college, a team that is running through the entire, I want to say league, but I know that's not what they really call it. Running through the entire championship, running through the entire tournament. Really cool to see UConn win. Obviously, going into the game, like you maybe spend like 10, 15 minutes thinking like, I'm not exactly too sure about UConn. Maybe Purdue's going to win with Zach Edey. And honestly, when you see UConn play like they did, just like the amount of defense that they played on their shooters and things of that nature, it's just a wonderful basketball. And I'm glad I was able to experience yet again another March Madness. Caitlin Clark, I know I talked about it in the last episode. She's absolutely unreal, and she's bringing back everything. And I don't think I've actually talked about them losing in the national championship. That kind of like would suck. I mean, it did suck, but it would have, looking back, it's like, man, what would have it meant if Caitlin Clark won the national championship this year? What would have it meant? I don't know. South Carolina went undefeated. They lost one game in the last 2 seasons, and that was to Iowa last year to get into in the Final Four to go to the national championship, and then Iowa lost to LSU. And then Iowa this past year here went to the national championship against South Carolina and then lost. So I think this sort of idea, and I know I never want to, you never want to try to injure or harm a God here, but Caitlin Clark here, yes, she's absolutely phenomenal. She's absolutely amazing. She's brought women's basketball to the forefront of ESPN and your social medias and things of that nature, and people are talking about women's basketball, people talking about her. However, I don't know if you can say she's the GOAT of women's basketball. I don't know who you could say the greatest of all time is anyway. But she came out of college without a ring. Granted, you only have 4 years out of college, and different COVID and other ideas of transfer portal and opportunities and things of that nature. You only have 4 years at college to win a ring, and she couldn't do it. So it kind of like it's kind of, where do you sit on those types of things? Is it just one player? Is it the idea of college basketball where you only have one player like Zach Edey, and the rest of you have a bunch of scrubs like Caitlin Clark and the rest of Iowa? And by the way, Iowa teammates sold, and I know I want to keep on going with other topics that we got going on here, but it's really interesting to talk about how how different, how functionally and inherently different college basketball is to the NBA. And I don't know how much a lot of those like qualities and talents translate. And obviously, we have a massive sample size of people going from college to NBA. But it seems like these people are there's better athletes now than there were 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So it's just becoming more interesting when we actually have Caitlin Clark, a female basketball player. What does her game translate to the WNBA? Are people going to, first of all, even watch the NBA? People don't watch the WNBA like at all. Is it going to drive up viewership? And are they going to keep on looking for college stars? Do they want people to stay in college so they become a star and then eventually go roll into the WNBA so that they can keep on getting players? Like I think the WNBA, this upcoming draft, actually has like a lot of prospects that could seriously change the game for the WNBA. And I'm not one of those to just like bag on, the league. But obviously, there's been a weird and serious lack of talent. You see, like, there's one of the highlights, and I think this was like a year ago or so, that that the first highlight, like, of all time, probably on ESPN Top 10 was it was like number 7 or whatever. It was a WNBA player like hardly dunking the ball, and I'm like, in the NBA, if you don't see a single dunk in the NBA, like on any given NBA game, then like something's off, But they would rather put a highlight of a woman dunking. It's just interesting. It's just interesting, a sort of idea how men's and women's basketball has been perceived the last couple of years, and now they're actually becoming correlated and meeting at the right place just now. So I think that's pretty interesting. The next thing I kind of want to get into, and I know we've already wasted a lot of time, I'm trying to trim down on this, but I have a lot of ideas. The Joker 2 trailer. So I just watched the Joker 2 trailer, and I'm definitely intrigued. The first Joker was not my favorite movie of all time, and coming out of it, I was kind of in my amateur ways of storytelling and creative process and understanding the film industry. I thought it was a good movie. I thought it was a really good movie. And then I watched more movies. And then I realized, hey, maybe that wasn't the greatest movie of all time. Hey, maybe they have different pieces and things of that nature that don't really add to an entire element to make a fantastic movie. It brought in a lot of inspiration. And at what point do you say, okay, yeah, I'm inspired, but I'm not copying? And I think King of Comedy and Taxi Driver mixed together in a DC Gotham universe is exactly what you get with Joker. And that's like the most even comparison, because you can clearly see on the script, you can clearly see on the page that there is massive correlations with the first one. And then now, how does that translate to the second one? What other stories do they have to tell with Lady Gaga as being Harley Quinn? What other ideas can they keep on going with? They had so much inspiration for the first one that when you make a sequel in which Taxi Driver and King of Comedy do not have, how much story is there left to tell? And going into this movie, I'm gonna have serious keen eye on like if the story actually like makes sense and holds up, because they're not copying anything anymore. Or they could be going off of, just make another Joker movie or something like that and still have inspirations from King of Comedy and Taxi Driver. But seriously, like when there's a sequel that comes about and they want to make their story different from the previous one, how does that look like when, especially in this circumstance with Joker 2? Granted, all things considered, I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be cool to get back into the Gotham, Batman, DC universe and what that all means. And I know this is an offset of everything else, but I think it's going to be really interesting to see how Gotham and the story of Joker and Harley Quinn evolves, and the persona and the pop culture relevance that the previous movie had. What does it mean? How does it translate? What could possibly happen with a second one? And apparently it's a musical. which is going to be kind of goofy, but I'm in for it. I like it when filmmakers take big swings, and the Warner Brothers of all places actually allows them to do that. And then I really want to pivot something that it's not necessarily on TV screens, not necessarily on sports, but the Magic Kingdom at Disney. I'm telling you, I'm trying to get better at this. The Magic Kingdom at Disney World, they're looking for a big expansion, and it's called Beyond Big Thunder Mountain. I don't know if you've heard about this, but they're looking into the single biggest Magic Kingdom land park expansion that they've ever had. I know that they had Fantasyland and they created into New Fantasyland, but they're looking into creating something completely original and new, and planting that in back, like literally, if you're looking at Big Thunder Mountain, it's behind that, and that little plot of land. I don't know how many acres they have. I think it's about 10 or something, probably 20. I'm not exactly too sure, but it's also like the half part of it of Big Tom Sawyer's Island. It's also behind Haunted Mansion, so like all on that side, and right behind all of that is behind that land is actually the Walt Disney World Magic Kingdom Railroad. So they have specific like, parameters that they have to work through. They could probably go like under or over the railroad, but nonetheless, it's going to be very interesting what they have. That's just to set it all up. What I have, what they have actually has, it's like a blue sky sort of idea. Like, hey, what would you guys actually think about this? And they've thrown us concept art of an Encanto themed idea, a Coco themed idea, and also a Villains themed idea. These are just ideas. None of this is actually concrete, but they do have concept art. You can definitely look that up. But I think that's pretty interesting that they would throw different ideas at us. And this happened like a year ago, but I'm trying to get to my point here. That they're throwing ideas at us that people aren't necessarily too on board with. What would a Encanto and Coco land look like if they were to be blended? And then they're also going to add a Villains realm idea of the park. And why is that beyond Big Thunder Mountain? Why does that even matter? They would have to have like some serious Imagineering storytelling genius go into that, because it's just making the land and the world and the park keep on flowing even throughout Big Thunder Mountain and Frontierland and Liberty Square, with Tom Sawyer's Island all in the middle of that. But what my idea is, and this is like the final point that I want to make in this podcast episode, is what my idea is, if they're going to go like beyond Big Thunder Mountain and they have all of this feel and all of this land and all of this, they obviously have a plan for this. They obviously want to get into what the land that they have beyond Big Thunder Mountain. My idea is that add another mountain. Ooh, I know. Add another mountain. And you know what that mountain should be? It should be the Matterhorn Mountain. Yeah. Now I'm talking. So the Matterhorn is obviously one of the staples at Fantasyland and Disneyland out in California. What if you made another Matterhorn, made it bigger, make it bolder, make it more interesting? Maybe have like ideas of like the Yeti. I know that like sort of in Everest. Maybe even add the Matterhorn in at Animal Kingdom. But nonetheless, I think something like that could be really cool. I know Splash Mountain has been replaced with Tiana's Bayou Adventure, and now they only have 2 mountains at Magic Kingdom, and it's Big Thunder Mountain Railroad and Space Mountain. What if you add a 3rd mountain yet again and say, hey, this is our new Matterhorn, and this is what's beyond Big Thunder Mountain? I think something like that could be cool. So it's kind of looking like there's a mountain range when you look to the left side of the park. I think something like that could be so cool. They obviously have Tom Sawyer's Island, and they have the ferry boat that's going around. I don't necessarily know what that's going to all entail, because I know that the ferry boat goes around Tom Sawyer's Island. It's like, okay, we'll call it a day. That's all the attraction does. And I've never, honestly, I don't think I've ever been on the ferry boat that just goes around in a circle on water. But what if you added 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea? What if you just took original ideas from Fantasyland and made it into Disney World in the Magic Kingdom? this is probably something that they're not going to do, and they're going to probably use this land for more original, well, not really original because they're based off previous IPs, but what if they added in like things that they haven't seen before in the parks, just like Tiana's Bayou Adventure? That's probably like the idea that they're going to go down, in contrast with my idea with adding older original attractions from Disneyland and just moving them and saying, this is bigger, this is better, let's do this. I think adding a 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, yes, that's more like a, Tomorrowland type idea. But maybe, like, I know over in Disneyland, they kind of make it into a Nemo attraction. I don't necessarily think that Magic Kingdom should have something like that, but definitely make it a twist where it's more fantasy. Maybe it's more frontier-ish. Maybe it's more Liberty Square-ish. I don't know. Maybe make it more scary and have it added to the Haunted Mansion or something along those lines. Do something with that water, because it goes all the way back to the land that they want to use. And if they're going to use that land and maybe put like a port or something that goes around that that half circle of water in the oval, why not use that land as something that could be used as a water-based attraction, a new water-based attraction? That's just sort of my ideas. I know that's not super concrete, but I did want to talk to you guys about Beyond Big Thunder Mountain and the different expansions that they're having. Really cool ideas that they're doing here with expanding the Magic Kingdom, but I really dislike the idea of adding more IPs into the Magic Kingdom. I think Magic Kingdom should have, I think Epcot should have the least amount of intellectual properties, but I think Magic Kingdom, the magic that comes through it is seeing things that you never thought you'd see before. Haunted Mansion, it was original, I think it was somewhat of original attraction. It didn't have a movie before, and then there's been 2 movies since then. So it's things, being creative, being original, creating things that make sense in the land, but also aren't based off previous IPs or based off of other ideas. Maybe make a new Matterhorn, but make it bigger, make it like more rocky. Make it, there's not necessarily like maybe make a Himalayas. I know that's what Everest is, but I don't know. Have some different ideas with another mountain, and I think having a mountain range or something along those lines, when you look to the left side of the park, when you look beyond Big Thunder Mountain, that you see multiple mountains, you're saying like, wow, I'm actually in a whole different place than I was in a flat area surface over in the hub, or maybe over in Liberty Square, or maybe over in Fantasyland. So those are my less than concrete ideas. That's very, very wet. Actually, we're just laying down the materials on this road. But that's sort of what kind of ideas that I have for Beyond Big Thunder Mountain. I can probably make them more concrete if I think about them more, but I had to make sure I get this podcast out. So I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me, talking about sports, sports and Magic Kingdom and Disney and Joker 2 and different movies. This is sort of the idea that I want to keep on going at with my podcast. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with me and talking about all those sorts of things. But I'll see you guys in another video or podcast episode. See ya.